guys, welcome. This is an update to my packing video for Arizona in the springtime. And I don't always make update videos, but I did want to make one now because there were a few things that I packed that I kind of wanted to give an update about because they might be a bit of a puzzle for you. And then also there are a few things that I didn't well, let me just say this. I wore everything I brought. I used everything I brought except for one thing. Spoiler alert, my umbrella. I'll get to that in a second. But there were a few other things that at the last minute I changed a little bit, and I want to explain why. But let me start this video by telling you, in that video I packed everything that I needed in this faux epoxy, not real, from Temu. Alpha 28, and I do love this bag. I've used it. If you see my videos, you've seen me use it several times. I was able to pack everything I needed in this backpack. The way I traveled though was because we were flying Southwest and we were allowed to have a personal item and a carry-on. So I went ahead and packed this backpack inside my carry-on suitcase, my rolling carry-on suitcase. And then I brought this leather purse that I found like 2 days before we left because I thought it was so cute, and that was my personal item. So I ended up packing this inside my carry-on and bringing the purse as my personal item. But I could have just used this bag because I didn't end up buying a whole lot, and I still traveled to Arizona and back just with my rolling carry-on and my purse. And then this backpack was inside the rolling carry-on. Now I will say that I am really glad actually that I didn't bring the backpack and that I did bring the rolling carry-on for a reason that I will get to at the end. That was just a little bit of a mini nightmare, but I will tell you all that stuff at the end. But just an update on that. It was a great item and I will probably be packing that a lot in the future. Now, one of the items that I did not really use was this umbrella. However, to me, for a spring summer trip, an umbrella is a non-negotiable. I always bring an umbrella. There were moments when I should have used it for the sun because it didn't really rain. The only time it rained was whenever we were driving from like the Phoenix area to Sedona. It sprinkled just a little bit. But we were in the car that whole time, so I didn't even really need this umbrella for rain, but it's always good to bring an umbrella because of the sun in the summer, which I didn't use it for that, and I should have, but anyways, I'm glad I had it, even though I was too lazy to get it out. Here's an item that I did not pack, and I kind of wish that I had. It wasn't a huge deal breaker that I didn't have it. I've shown you this before. This is my folding clothes rack. It's really great. I use this item for whenever I'm planning my capsule wardrobes for traveling. I've shown you this before. I hang all of the things that I want to pack, and I let it hang and get all the wrinkles out and air out before I pack it. But also, I put this up in my bedroom, and that way I can see all of the things that I'm planning on taking. So throughout the week or weeks before I travel, I can sort of edit the things that I'm bringing, and that way I can change them out, but I can see everything that I will be packing. But I wish I had packed it because the place that we stayed, they had a closet, but the closet was full. We were staying in a friend's guest room, and so there really wasn't anywhere for me to hang my skirt. That was the main thing that I cared about because skirts get wrinkles when you pack them, and I wanted them to be able to hang up. So I did end up having to use my folding hangers, which I'll get to in a second, and hanging those kind of just on various and sundry knobs throughout the bedroom. But it would have been nice to have had this, and I did have the room for it, but I didn't bring it. But maybe this will give you an idea of something that you might want to bring in the future. but I like this item and I use it even if I don't always pack it. Now, this is one of the reasons I wanted to make an update video, because in my last video, I've shown you in some of my most recent videos, I've shown you these folding aluminum hangers. And one of the things that I've mentioned is I wasn't sure if they would get through TSA. And I'm here to tell you they did make it through TSA. If you want to see them up close, this is what it looks like. And that's what it looks like. But they did make it through TSA. I didn't get stopped for anything for TSA, not even my hiking poles that I'll get to in a second. I brought 4 total folding hangers. And the reason I brought these 2 plastic ones is because I was a little worried that they might confiscate these aluminum ones and then I wouldn't have any hangers. But I'm glad that I had all 4, and I used all 4 for my skirt, and for a few of the blousier shirts that I brought, I was able to hang them up on some of the knobs in the bedroom, as I said. So I'm glad that I brought all of these, but just in case you were wondering, yes, these aluminum hangers are TSA approved. All right, next thing, and I mentioned this a lot because I've heard a lot of weird information from YouTubers saying that you can't bring hiking poles, that you have to check them, and that is not true. I have brought these 2 hiking poles international trips, and now I've brought them on an America trip, to Arizona to do hiking. I've never been stopped by TSA for having hiking poles in my carry-on. And one really important thing to note is that I do take the metal tip out. I did an entire video showing you how to do that. It is very important that when you pack your hiking poles that you take the metal tip off and put the metal tip somewhere else. I put it in my toiletries bag, and whenever I get to the destination, I pop it back in and use my hiking poles, and then before I leave, I pop it back out. Now, I have a secret method for how I pack my hiking poles. I have never been stopped by TSA for my hiking poles, and I'm not gonna tell you how I pack them, because once word gets out how people are packing their hiking poles, then TSA is gonna crack down on it. So I'm not telling you, you're just gonna have to figure it out for yourself. Anyways, there is a way of packing these that you don't get stopped, so figure it out. All right, now next thing that I brought, and I'm glad that I did. Oh my gosh, I love this thing. I'm so glad now that I've taken it on a trip. I've shown this to you in my no bag challenges. This is a hoodie, and I wore it to the airport both times in this backpack. Like, obviously you can see the back of this hoodie has a backpack on it, right? I packed a book, I packed comfort items, I packed my scarf, I packed all kinds of things in this backpack, and nobody knew that I had an extra bag. I had my rolling carry-on, I had my purse, and then I had this with all of the stuff that I needed on the airplane. And all I had to do was carry it like this over my arm, and nobody knew I had a backpack under here. And sometimes I hung it over my carry-on, and then whenever I got to my seat, I took all my stuff out as I needed it, or whatever. So this was great, and this was my cold weather layer, because we went to 2 places. Like I told you, we went near Phoenix, and then we went to Sedona for half the trip. And I'm glad I brought this because there was about 30 degrees of difference. Like near Phoenix, it was in the 90s. And then when we went to Sedona, it was like in the 60s. It even got down to the 50s. One night it got to the 40s. It was crazy. So I was glad that I had this as a layer, but it also just came in handy for stowing items. So I will be traveling with this a lot in the future, and I really like it. All right, speaking of things that I really, really like and I will be traveling a lot with in the future are my fancy pants that I have outfitted with a bunch of pockets. I normally wear these pants, so I don't have the chance to show you what the inside looks like, but this is what the inside looks like. This is the back This is the long pocket, and then on the front I have 3 separate pockets, but this was actually a White House black market dress. It's like 95% silk and 5% spandex or something. So it's a little bit stretchy, but it's silk, so it's really soft on your skin and it's really comfortable. And I did not feel like I was too hot wearing these pants, even in 90 degree. Well, here, I'm weird. I don't like wearing shorts. And so even if it's like over 100 degrees, I'll still be wearing pants. I know that's strange, but my legs don't really get hot. So anyways, it's just comfortable for me. But anyway, what I really liked about these pants is whenever I was at my destination, I just wore these like you would jeans and had the zippers all closed. And nobody was like staring at me like, oh my gosh, why does she have all those zippers on her jeans? Because you can't really see them. They kind of blend in with the jeans. But one thing that I noticed that was kind of a neat little style thing to do was I unzipped the alternating pockets like this, and it kind of gave a little bit of a mimic to having rips in your jeans. I don't know, it just kind of looked a little, and I know rips in your jeans are not necessarily on trend right now, but that's the thing, is it's not really a rip in your jean. It just gives you like a little peek to this other world going on inside this pocket. I don't know, it just kind of looks neat, and I just thought it was a neat little style thing to do. But let me explain something. I loved these pants in transit. In the airport and on the airplane, these pants were amazing because, let me see. Let me pretend like this hanger thing is my phone. All right, are you like this? You have your phone on the airplane, but then you want to maybe like read your book and you don't know where to put your phone. And I don't put anything in the seat back pocket in front of me because those things are disgusting. And I also don't want to be like digging in my bag. I didn't have a bag to put under the seat in front of me because I actually stowed my backpack and my purse and everything in my carry-on, which was in the overhead bin. So, you know, and I didn't want to have to like dig through my sweatshirt to keep putting my phone in and keep reaching out and digging around in that. So let me just tell you how these pants were amazing. I just kept this pocket open the whole time, and when I didn't need my phone, I would just stick it right there. And I didn't have to worry about it falling on the floor. I didn't have to worry about it fumbling for it. It just was always in this pocket. And, you know, like a hip pocket is a little awkward when you're sitting. You can't really put your phone in that pocket. But this was just like the perfect pocket and the perfect place for my phone while I was on the airplane. And I didn't have to worry about it at all. Also, when I travel, sometimes I'll wear like these high-end bracelets. These are not high-end, these are just everyday bracelets. But I will travel with like Hermes and like Gucci and stuff like that. And whenever I was on the airplane going home, I was really tired, which I'll get to in a second as to why. And I didn't want to have to deal with my bracelets. And as I said, all of my stuff was in the overhead bin above me. I didn't want to have to dig through that bag and put all my bracelets in there. Plus, I didn't want them all banging together, especially like Hermes bracelets have enamel. I don't want to crack it. So what I did was I just took these bracelets off and put them each in a separate, these are not my high-end bracelets, right? These are just, but this, I'm just demonstrating. I took all of my bracelets off and put them all on these lower pockets. Each pocket had a separate bracelet, and that way they weren't banging together, but also I knew exactly where they were. And I know this is paranoid, but you know whenever they go through like the emergency exit and like if the plane goes down or whatever, and one of the things that they say is leave all of your stuff and just exit. I'm like, well, at least if the plane goes down, I have my bracelets. I know where my bracelets are. They're in my pants. Okay, so I know that's stupid. But anyways, I love these pants, and I will probably always travel with them. I can't think of a scenario that I wouldn't. And so, and I realize not everybody can sew. So you might be going, okay, those pants are great. I don't sew. how would I have that option? Well, I showed you these pants initially. This is where I got the idea, is I saw these pants on Temu that have 4 sets of pockets on them. And I actually made a whole video on how you could pack all of your clothes in these pants that you might need for a trip. These were the inspiration pants, but I ended up making these and I like these better. I will still use these pants, but I'm just showing you that you can find pants with a bunch of pockets on them. Just look on Amazon or Temu, maybe even Shein, and you can mimic the same situation that I am explaining to you. All right, now let's get to the next order of business. This was a last minute change. So in my original Arizona video, I had packed a much bigger hat, wide brimmed hat, and then I had packed a tankini. And that's because I thought that we were maybe going to be swimming with family, and this is like extended family, and I didn't want to be wearing a bikini around extended family. Just, I don't know, I'm kind of modest. So that's why I had packed the tankini initially. But then some things changed at the last second. So for one thing, it ended up we weren't going to be swimming with family, but we did have a hot tub at the Airbnb in Sedona that my husband booked, and I don't mind wearing a bikini around my husband. Obviously, he's my husband. I've worn a lot less around my husband. Anyways, so that's why I brought this, and I probably should have used these as underwear while we were hiking, but I didn't, but I could have. But I did wear them in the hot tub. Now, the reason I switched this hat out, for this hat I've shown you before, which is like a modified ball, it's kind of like a modified ball cap, but it has a much wider brim, it covers your ears. And I've shown you before, like you can wear it like a ball cap and you can have a ponytail, your hair can come out the back. But the reason I bought this is because my husband, at the last minute, bought us these sun shirts on REI. And so this obviously is a hoodie. It's like UPF 50 and it's like cooling material. So even if you're hiking in hot weather, you're not getting too hot, but it also keeps the sun off. But the reason I opted for this hat is because it fits under the hoodie a lot better than like a wide brimmed hat would. And I didn't want to have to deal with my hair and the hat, and that's just too many things to deal with. So I opted for this hat in lieu of, and the fact that we weren't going to be spending a whole lot of time by a pool. We would only be going in the hot tub at night after hiking. So I didn't really need my big sun hat after all. I just needed this for hiking. So there's that. All right, and then I do want to mention this. This is a great idea for hiking in all weather, but especially in hot weather. It's great to keep the sun off, but it also is, like this particular one is made by Free Country is the brand. Maybe I should show you. Free Country, and I got it on REI, like I said, and it's like infused with jade and zinc, so it's cooling, and it is also sun protection. And also, okay, because he bought these sun shirts, I almost decided not to bring these shoulder covers that I showed you, because I'm like, if I already have sun protection with this, I might not even need these sun sleeves. But I actually ended up bringing both, and I'm glad that I did, because whenever we were hiking near Phoenix, we hiked the Superstition Mountains, and it was really hot. But then we got to Sedona, as I said, it was like 30 to 40 degrees cooler. So what I did is I wore a t-shirt, I wore these sun sleeves over the t-shirt, and then I wore this hoodie over all of it. And because I had 2 layers on my arms, it actually added a layer of warmth that I needed. So I'm glad that I brought this and didn't opt to not bring it. That was a really good idea on my part. So, I would recommend hiking like that. And this is another honorable mention, but I hike like every week, and I always bring a little microfiber towel, and this is my smallest one, so this is like the one I travel with, but It's always good to have one of these because not only can you wipe sweat off your brow as you are hiking, but also it can be another layer of sun protection in case you need it. And you can get it wet. If you get it wet and put it around your neck as it's evaporating, it's like air conditioning sort of to you. All right, now I want to now talk about the shoes that I brought. And I did show you before that I brought 3 pairs of shoes. I only have 2 hands though, and I'm gonna do this against my better, whatever. I don't like shoes. I mean, these are clean, but I just always get grossed out by shoes. Anyways, I'm glad I brought all 3 of these. These flip-flops were comfortable. I wore them in the shower. I always wear flip-flops in the shower when I travel. And because they're a little bit fancy, I was able to wear them to church. If I had only brought 2 pairs of shoes, I would have only brought these 2. But I am glad that I had these Vionics because we hiked about 25 miles and I did all the hiking in these Keens. And it's just a good idea that if you are hiking or walking a lot, that you bring another pair of shoes for like the recovery day so that your feet are not hurting from the shoes you were doing all that walking in. It's always good to alternate your footwear. So I was glad that I brought these, even though I probably didn't really need to pack them, but I'm glad I had them. And let me now talk to you about these Keens. All right, so I've told you before, I made a whole video on one and done shoes. I know they look dirty, but they are actually clean. That's just, they get like that after you hike in them. But I made a whole video on one and done shoes for summer trips and for winter trips. In the summer, this would be a one and done shoe. If you're doing hiking and if you need to wear a dress, obviously you can't wear these with like a formal dress, but with like a casual dress, you could get away with it. Even though I think they're pretty ugly, but even though I think they're pretty ugly, I still got complimented, which is bizarre. I think they're ugly as sin, but people, I mean, they still look decent as a going out sandal. Anyway, I'm really glad that I had them. I will say they were not ideal for Sedona because Sedona hiking is a lot of powdery sand and a lot of scrambling, and they were not the greatest for that, but I did it. And I'm like an old person, so anyways, they do have tread, but it's just not, it's not the greatest tread in the world. Let me just show you what it looks like. It's not the greatest tread in the world, but I didn't slip or fall or anything in them. So would I do it again in them? Yeah, I would, because I don't want to have to pack a big pair of hiking boots, but I would have been more comfortable in hiking boots. And I'll be honest, everybody in Sedona was wearing either hiking boots or trail runners. Nobody was wearing sandals. I was the only person wearing sandals. But anyway, just take that information for what you will. Now, another thing about these shoes is the first hike, as I said, we did in the Superstition Mountains, and I wore my hiking capris and my sun shirt. So my sun shirt covered my whole upper body just fine. I didn't get any sun whatsoever. However, if you look at these sandals, you can see there's a little point right there, and it turns out that my feet got sunburned right there, and I don't know if you can tell. You probably can. It was bright red all week, and I was really actually worried about it because it was so sunburned from that first hike. So I was really glad that I had worn compression socks on the trip, and I had washed them out after that first day, and they were already dry by the time I needed them. But the rest of the hikes that we did, I looked like a weirdo. I know I looked like a weirdo. I was wearing these long compression socks with my sandals and my capris and my sun shirt. So I probably looked like a crazy person. But it's fine because I did not want to get re-sunburned on my feet. But I did also discover that wearing compression socks with these sandals gave me 2 more advantages. Not only was I not getting sunburned on my sunburn, but also the socks kind of kept out some of that powdery dust from getting under the parts of the sandal and rubbing on my feet. So that was nice. And then also compression socks are just, it's always really nice to hike in compression socks because then your legs don't get as tired from the hike. So I'm actually really glad that I had brought these, and I always wear compression socks, so I'm glad that I had them. But anyways, that's my little story about that. Now, let me tell you about the little nightmare that we had coming home. This happens every once in a while. You book a flight and it has a layover, and then the first flight gets delayed, and so you miss the layover, and then like all heck breaks loose. And we've only had, in my whole like 21 years of airline travel, I've only had 2 horrible nightmares before this one. So let me just make a long story short. Our flight was supposed to fly out of Phoenix at 1:45 p.m. We got through TSA and to the gate, and it was already delayed 2 hours. And the longer we waited, the more they kept delaying it. We didn't fly out. We were supposed to fly out at 1:45. We didn't fly out until 10 p.m. And we were only supposed to have had 1 layover. By the time we flew out at 10 p.m., we had 2 layovers. So long story short, what was supposed to have been 6 hours total of travel with the flight layover flight turned into 24 hours. So that's why I say I'm actually really glad that I packed everything in my rolling carry-on, because being that tired and carrying everything through the airport, I'm glad I didn't have to deal with a backpack. I'm glad I could just have a rolling carry-on. That was enough for me. I was exhausted. Now, my second thing I want to say is from now on, I will never be traveling without this item. Like, I thought, I didn't pack it because I thought, well, I only use this on international flights because I know I'm going to need to sleep. What is it? This is my deflated neck pillow. So this is coming with me on every flight from now on because I do not want to be caught without a neck pillow in case that sort of a nightmare happens again. So obviously you've seen these before. They are a deflated neck pillow. You fill it with all of your clothes and it turns into a neck pillow. I mean, I took little cat naps, but I'm the kind of person that my head bobs around and I can't get any sleep whatsoever. So I was awake for over 24 hours by the time we got home because we woke up early to get ready and meet people for breakfast before we even got to the airport. So those were extra out. We were probably awake for probably 30 hours. And so anyways, from now on, I will always be traveling with this deflated neck pillow in the event that such a layover and delay nightmare happens again, which it probably will because weather, right? Weather and just whatever reason that they have to delay flights. But the nice thing is that this packs down super flat, so it's really easy to fit it in. And I should have just packed it, you guys. But lesson learned, from now on, I will be packing this. So anyways, that's my video for today. That's my update. And so I hope that you learned something. I hope it helps. And have a great day. Happy travels.